It wasn't until the woods swallowed us whole that I realized something was horribly wrong. And by then, it was too late. It was supposed to be a fun, routine field trip, a visit to an old abandoned prison on the outskirts of town, known for its eerie reputation. Our class, excited and brimming with the usual energy, piled onto the bus at the crack of dawn. Mrs. Matthews, our history teacher, led the group, her usual stern but kind demeanor making her seem trustworthy. She had been the teacher we all liked the most, but that day something changed. As we arrived at the prison, the air was thick with fog, and the buildings loomed like giant skeletons, dark and imposing. Mrs. Matthews led us on a brief tour before telling us we'd be taking a walk around the grounds for a more hands-on lesson. The place was covered in overgrown ivy, broken windows, and crumbling brick. It felt like stepping into another world, and despite its history, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I wasn't the only one who felt it. A few students mentioned it in passing, but we all laughed it off ghost stories, right? The weirdness began when we took a detour off the main path. Mrs. Matthews had told us to follow her, but we quickly strayed into an area where the trees were unnaturally dense, blocking out the light. I remember hearing something snap underfoot, a twig or branch, but then silence. Too quiet. My friend Jenny had nudged me, whispering how the place felt off. I agreed. But we kept walking. Mrs. Matthews was ahead, always ahead, her back to us, moving with strange urgency. The further we went, the more the forest closed in around us. The familiar surroundings of the prison disappeared. There were no more paths or signs of life, just thick trees and the occasional rustle in the underbrush that made my skin crawl. Mrs. Matthews wasn't saying anything, not a word. She had been talking non-stop about the history of the prison up until now, but now it was just silence. It felt wrong. I felt my heart start to beat faster. Then Jenny stopped. "I don't think we should go any further," she said, her voice low and shaky. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed through the trees. It was followed by what sounded like someone nor something running through the brush. Mrs. Matthews turned sharply, her head whipping toward the sound. Her face was blank, her eyes cold. The moment I saw that, something in my gut twisted. This wasn't the same teacher I knew. She had always been strict, but she was kind. This wasn't her. I tried to ask her if everything was okay, but she didn't respond. Instead, she stepped off the trail and into the thick trees, as though she was being pulled by an invisible force. The rest of us hesitated for a moment, but there was a strange sense of urgency in the air, a pull that seemed to guide us forward, one step after another. I noticed that some of the other students, like Sarah and Mark, were already moving, following Mrs. Matthews like they were in a trance. When we caught up to her, she was standing still, facing an old, dilapidated shack hidden deep in the woods. Her hand was stretched toward it, as if she was beckoning us. The shack looked abandoned, broken, its windows dark and empty. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. As we gathered around Mrs. Matthews, her eyes flicked to us briefly, but she didn't speak. It was as if she couldn't. "Miss Matthews?" I called out, my voice trembling. She turned slowly toward me, and for a split second, saw something in her eyes, a flash of recognition, followed by a cold, empty stare. And then she did something that shook me to my core. She smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was twisted, almost like she was trying to hold back something, as if her lips were forcing themselves into an expression that didn't belong. "You shouldn't have come here," she said in a low voice, one that didn't sound like her at all. It was almost as if someone else was speaking through her. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by the sound of footsteps crunching through the leaves behind us. My heart stopped.
Ow.
We all turned to see a figure emerging from the tree's tall, shadowed, and cloaked. It was too far away to see clearly, but the shape was unmistakable. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath in front of me now. "Run," Mrs. Matthews whispered, almost as if to herself, before backing away, her eyes fixed on the figure. The others seemed to snap out of their trance at the sound of the word "run," and chaos broke loose. We all turned and bolted back down the trail, crashing through the underbrush, heart pounding, adrenaline kicking in.
Oh.
But the woods felt endless. I thought we were running in circles, but every turn looked the same. The oppressive feeling of being watched grew stronger. It wasn't until we finally broke through the trees and saw the bus parked at the edge of the woods that I felt a sense of relief. We piled onto the bus, gasping for breath, all of us trying to make sense of what had just happened. Mrs. Matthews was nowhere to be seen. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. The bus ride back was eerily quiet. No one spoke. We didn't know what to say. No one wanted to ask questions. But I knew we had been brought to that place for a reason. And whatever it was that had taken hold of Mrs. Matthews was still out there, waiting. No one spoke of it again after that day. But every one of us knew the truth deep down. Mrs. Matthews wasn't the same person, and whatever happened in those woods, we hadn't escaped it, was still following us. And I don't think any of us will ever feel safe again.